remember when you had us playing that, game last time? Mm-hmm. Even though I was trying to act like I didn't like it, I really liked it. It was actually funny. So I started going down the rabbit hole, looking at all these different couples games. Okay, so I wanted to do one really quick. Are you going to do it with me before we start?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this one's called the Alphabet Challenge.
Okay.
All right. So we tell a story, and you have to connect to the story I start with the next alphabet. So if I start a story and I'm going to start it with A, then when you add your part, your first word has to start with the next letter of the alphabet.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does it make sense, really?
Yeah.
Okay. A man was walking down the street.
A bitch. No, I'm sorry. No. Sorry. 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 All right.
Okay.
Bananas fell on his head.
Coming from the monkey above him.
Dogs yelled hello.
Every time they saw the man.
Fred the milkman would wink.
Going to deliver his milk. You don't know your alphabet?
No, I do. Even?
No, G-H, William.
What did you say?
I said going with the G. What?
Oh. H. Horses make corn.
Just forget it. We're going to start the show. We will start. It's fine. We don't have all day. So we're going to go ahead and start the show. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. And welcome to this week's episode of F It.
I feel defeated.
F It.
Fuck it.
No. Actually, today, the F word is not going to be that one.
Okay. All
right. So today's F word is fasting. To fast. Yes. Today on F It with Aikisha and Willie Cologne, we are going to be talking about our journey with fasting. We fast every year. I personally have been fasting about...
You've been doing it for some time.
I've been doing it about 21 years now, because I was first introduced to the Daniel fast when I was living in LA, and I moved to LA in 2004. And so I did my first attempt at fasting around 2004 or in 2004. And, I had heard of fasting, of course. I knew that it was abstaining for something, or in my mind, I thought, what I was taught, you abstain for something during Lent. We both are Christian. I grew up originally going to church with my aunt when I was with my biological mother. We went to a Kojic church, and we went to a Baptist church because my aunt played for a lot of different churches all over the state of Mississippi. Actually, we would go from one church in Jackson to the country to just different counties all over the state of Mississippi. So I started with that. And when I moved with my aunt who adopted me and my grandparents, they were United Methodists, and I was moved from public school to a Catholic school. So I started out in a Kojic and Baptist Christian environment, and then went to United Methodist, which was a little bit more conservative, and then going to Catholic school, which was very conservative. And you went to Catholic school as well, right?
I did. Yeah. I went to Catholic school from first grade through 8th grade.
No, you went to Catholic school from...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm tripping.
Kindergarten to 12th grade.
All the way through high school. I apologize. Yeah. I don't know why I left out my high school years.
Yes, please don't leave those out.
I'm sorry.
But so Willie and I both went to Catholic school. And saying that, we, knew during Lent season, some people fast. Some people fast from, back then we didn't have social media, because you hear about people going on social media fast, or from their telephones. You can do television, different foods. You don't maybe not eat meat, or what were people doing for fasting during Lent, especially like going to Catholic school? We learned about
everything you said, abstaining from meat, and I think
some people will say they're not going to curse.
Yeah, that was a big one, especially in my household. We try to practice not cursing, which is extremely tough. I also think a lot of people also try to pull away from sugar.
Yes.
People try to pull away from, lying,
Right.
which was another big one in my house. So those are things that people try to pull away from.
Yes, I think, I mean, all of those things. And the thing it was about it is you would start, you were supposed to go from Ash Wednesday up until Easter, which was 40 days. But then they would end up quitting. They'd be back to doing the things that they were doing before. I know even with myself, I would say, oh, I'm not going to say any curse words, or I'm not going to eat this, or I'm not going to do these things, or I'm not going to watch television. I would have all these things growing up because I was just learning about fasting, going to Sunday school and going to a Catholic school, but I really didn't understand what it really meant to do a fast. So after about day 4 or 5 or 6, I was back to doing what I was doing before. What about you?
Oh, yeah. I think like everybody, you fast, and then when it's over, you're happy it's over so you can go back to your original self.
But a lot of us, I'm saying we didn't even make it through the 40 days. That's a long time.
Yeah.
So
I don't think it's tough. Like, I think like you, I didn't understand it when I was younger. I was just told what not to do, and you try to obey it to the best of your abilities. But now that we're older, and I know for us, when you talk about the genesis of fasting, I felt like if you broke it, God was angry with you.
So it became that for me too.
So you're like, damn it, I pissed off God because I had this cheeseburger and I forgot
right.
that I should be fasting or pulling away from red meat.
Right. And I know even at Catholic school, like on Fridays, everybody ate fish on Fridays. Like you didn't eat meat on Fridays. So I can remember when I first, going back to when I said I was introduced to fasting, I started doing it the original way that I learned it. So every Friday I wouldn't eat any meat, and I would try to, either cook some fish. And that's when Wendy's introduced this fish sandwich. It was a fish fillet, like they did like the fish fillet that McDonald's was doing, because I used to really just go kill those. But Wendy's introduced a fish sandwich. I'll never forget this. My girlfriend Lanika and I would be in the line at the Wendy's on Sunset waiting for this fish sandwich.
Well, it wasn't really fish.
Well, look, in our minds, we thought we were doing good.
It wasn't red meat, but it wasn't fish.
Right. It was supposed to be cod, but whatever it was, baby, let me tell you, Wendy's hit the mark on that fish sandwich. It was like when Popeyes introduced their chicken sandwich. People would be lined up for this fish sandwich and they only brought it out during Lent. And did you never tried it? No,
I'm not a fan of Wendy's.
Oh man. Well, anyway, if you would have had this fish sandwich, you would have wanted to get it. So it was around that time. Another friend introduced me to Daniel fasting because I was just in a crossroad in my life. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be, what career path I was trying to take. I was just seemed like I was all over the place and going in so many different directions. And one thing that was consistent in my life was the love of God. No matter where I was, I always found a church home. I went from Mississippi, Central United Methodist Church on Ferris Street. When I got to Atlanta and Clark Atlanta University, I joined Cascade United Methodist Church on Cascade Road in Atlanta. When I moved to LA, I found Holman United Methodist Church that was off of Crenshaw and Slauson, off Jefferson, off of Crenshaw in LA. I always found something faith-based to kind of keep me grounded, but I still, I wasn't where I wanted to be, where I needed to be. And I knew that I had to make some major changes because I was changing the trajectory of what I really wanted for my life. So that's how a friend introduced me to the Daniel fast. And it was at that moment I found out a true spiritual fast always deals with abstaining from food in some way, shape, form. In our mind, we feel like, oh, during Lent, we're going to give up this, we're going to give up that. I'm going to give up TV. I'm going to give up whatever. But you're not truly doing a spiritual fast if it doesn't involve you giving up food. And I know I introduced that to you because I know you didn't know that.
I didn't know. I didn't know anything about the Daniel fast until you brought it to me. It was it was definitely a moment of clarity. Well, the first time I did it, I think it definitely brought me clarity. It was good to kind of drive myself something more faith based, and and even I think me and you doing it together, it allowed me to see a different side of you, which was great.
And I want to talk about that because so in 2004 is when I started attempting to do this fast. Now it was really, really hard for me in the beginning. It took me like 2 or 3 tries to complete it all the way through the full 21 days of the Daniel fast. And so I'm going to bring up a little something and read this just to sort of give you a background on it. So Daniel is a person in the Bible. He's in the book of Daniel, and he chose to eat only vegetables and drink water as a form of dietary restriction. This decision was made in response to the king's decree that the young men of Israel should eat the royal food, drink the wine provided by the king. And Daniel refused to do that because he wanted to stay loyal to his faith, his commitment to God, his dedication to God. And so he chose not to eat what the king was offering them, which was full of rich foods and meats and, creams and all of these things that came from animals. So I read the book of Daniel. I saw how God favored them in their dedication and their Daniel and his friends and the commitment to him. And I saw that it was life-changing for him, and his favor followed him all the way throughout that story. I mean, we know about Daniel going into the lion's den. So I started to attempt to do it the first time. Y'all know, since we've started this podcast, we both talk about my love of food. One of the only arguments that Willie and I had on our road trip was about food. I love the pig from the rooter to the tutor. I love the cow. I love chicken. I love fish. I love food. So when you begin a fast, you have to get your mind right. You prepare your body, your soul, your spirit, everything for that. And so that was hard. So by the time I met you, I had been doing it, or by the time I introduced it to you, I had been doing it about 10 years, because I remember the first time I said something to you about it, it was when I was getting ready to fast right after my mom had passed. My mom passed February of 2014. So that was 10 years from when I had started doing the fast. And we got right before Easter, we were getting ready to go. I had gone to the Ash Wednesday service. Lent starts after, a lot of you guys call it Fat Tuesday, after the carnival holidays or Mardi Gras and all of these things. And then you have Ash Wednesday. So I had gone to my church here. When I got here, I got into another faith-based church. We go to First Bethel AME in Harlem. I had gone to get my ashes, and I remember you were coming back. Spring training was kind of starting. And you asked me about the ashes, which you knew what it was because you went to a Catholic church. Yeah. Right. And I told you I was. So one thing about fasting, and we're going to get deeper into this, when you really get into the word of fasting and how you fast, it's not anything that you really go about your life bragging and boasting about. So you're not running about like, hey, I'm fasting. I'm not eating meat. I'm not doing this and doing that. I remember having a small kind of falling out with some friends about fasting, and if you tell people about fasting, and if you share with each other and do these things, and it really turned into a really negative situation that after it was over, I was hurt, and possibly maybe some of my friends were hurt, but I've never been one to hold the blessings and the favor I feel like God has on me, and I share with any and everyone who knows me my faith. And if you talk to me about fasting, I will talk to you about it. But when I'm actually doing it, I never just, walk around to everybody like, oh, no, I can't eat that, girl, because I'm fasting. No, I can't do that. And that comes from the Bible. That comes from Matthew 6:7. And so, when you fast, you don't walk around with your head bowed or showing that you're fasting, because that's, really making a mockery of what you're doing. So saying that, at this time, Willie and I had become very, very close. This was after my mother had passed, and we had just began to bond on a deeper level. So I decided to share with him that I was getting ready to start the fast, because mind you, I'm doing the cooking in the house. We are, going out and just living our best life. And so I didn't want to have to explain every time. Okay, no, I don't want bacon on this. Oh, no, I don't want to go to this steak restaurant, even though it's my favorite. Oh, no, not Italian. And I just didn't want to go through that. And I felt that we were at a place that I wanted to share that with you. And so I remember telling you about it, and I was saying, it's 21 days, but if you want to do it with me, you can start. And I was breaking down to you that it was going to be like a very strict vegan diet. Do you remember this conversation? We were in the apartment.
Yeah, I remember. I remember feeling like, okay, what is this? And two, it was good to it was a change of a dial for me, because I had never done it, and I never done it with anybody. And I too was at a point in my life where I was looking for clarity, looking for answers, trying to figure out, were you the one? And was this, am I really about to embark on this kind of love journey with somebody? And, one of the things I'm extremely proud of, and I think it starts with the fast, was that you brought God into my life. I wasn't very, I believed in Jesus. I did go in church, but to be 100%, to keep it a buck, I had a very superficial relationship with God, right? As long as good things happen for me, I believe.
He was like, oh, thank you, Lord.
Right. When the bad things happen, I was like, man, ain't nobody listening upstairs. So this kind of sent me down a different path. And it really made me focus on what I was, focus on my behavior, who I was around, what was going on in my life, things I was doing, self-sabotage. It just kind of brought a lot of things to the forefront of my life.
Yeah, you begin to see that. So going back to, guys, if you remember a couple of episodes ago when we were talking about our forever love, it is because of my time during that time. I don't know if you guys remember when I said I began my fast and I wrote these things down that I wanted to release, things that I wanted God to do and change in my life. And I put on that list Willie Cologne, because I, at that point, did not understand, like, why was I still thinking about this man? Why was he in my thoughts, in my spirit, and all of this? So I wanted at that point to meet my husband. And I felt like, why did you bring this man into my life if he's not going to be my husband? Like I told you guys, he had, he was still doing him and out there doing his thing. So for me, I'm saying, okay, God, if he's not my husband, which clearly at the point I thought he wasn't, I want you to remove him from my life by any means necessary except for death. And that's what I put when I began that fast of 2013. Well, you guys know the story. And here we are now in 2014. So I felt like
2014.
Well, I'm saying in 2014 is when we were getting ready to begin again. This time I was going to share the fast with you. And so I shared that story with him. I told him what I had done the year before. So I wanted to see if he wanted to join me on this journey. I definitely wasn't trying to scare him away or anything, but at the same time, I knew that I wanted a man who believed in God, trusted God, was God fearing, and that we were going to be on the same path in our spiritual life as we were in our sexual life and our physical life and financial life. I wanted to make sure that he and I were on the same page.
And just quickly, that's important. It's so funny you said that, because a coworker of mine who I do radio with from time to time, he talked about that's one of the bugaboos in his relationship and his marriage right now. He is more of an atheist. His wife, now that they have kids, wants to start, kind of implementing some moral ground and kind of bringing religion into their home and even for the children. And he's pushing back. And I didn't say anything to him, and I didn't, because that's their marriage, and how, I don't want to chime in or be rude, mighty manner. But I do say that if you're serious about somebody, make sure you're on the same page.
You're on the same page.
Yeah.
And that's when it goes to being equally yoked. So I remember I began to tell him about the fast. I talked to him about the book of Daniel. I talked to him about what restrictions it was going to be. And, so I just remember surprisingly, he was just like, okay, all right, I'll do it. I did not know like what he even just explained here. He's thinking in his mind, let me see if this is the one. Let me see this. Let me see that. All of the things you just said. But for me, I said, if we're, just the fact that you were open and willing, I know it's really hard. That's why I told you, I said, well, let's try with 3 days or let's try 7 and let's see. And you said, okay, you said, I'm going to give it a shot. Let's try it. So I began to, where we were in New Jersey at the time, we were living in Verona. We had an apartment. I had not even moved in with him. I was still living in my own apartment in Harlem. And so I was finding all of these vegan restaurants all over the city in New York and New Jersey. I was, just sharing with him some of the things that I would eat, some of the things I would do. And we pray 3 times a day. We pray in the morning before, I was just sharing with him, it's 3 times a day. So we began to do it before he would go to, work out, and we were doing spring training then, work out in the morning. We would come together, whether we were on the phone or physically together at noon. Mm-hmm. And then we prayed at night. So we got to, it was challenging. I remember we were finding places. That's how we found, remember the tapioca shakes? Remember we found the place that was down the street from the apartment?
In reference to food.
Yes, yeah. For food. We began, it became sort of this exciting thing, like, hey, I found this new place I want to try. Oh, let's go here. Let's do that. So when we got to day 7 for him, I still had, another 14 days to go. But I remember you saying, no, I'm going to keep going. And I can remember getting off the phone with him because I called you saying well, your 7 days are up, da, da, da. And you're like, no, I'm going to keep going. And I just remember getting off the phone and I cried and I went into prayer and I said, thank you, God, because it just meant so much to me that you were willing to go on that journey with me. And I remember we were getting, you gave me a call. You had a call because you were up, trying to figure out if you were going back to Jets. Because remember when you got here from 2013, 2014, you were only on a 1-year contract. Right. And they were negotiating this contract. And I remember he called me and you said that your agent was on the phone. They had gotten a new GM. Mm-hmm. They had gotten a new coach. Because remember, Rex was only there that first year with you. Yep. And I went into my closet. And y'all, when I go in the closet to pray, I'm getting down to it. I get completely naked and I go in and I give it all to God. And I remember just saying, I just remember my prayer and going in and just really digging and going deeper into this prayer, doing this fast. And later on that night, you got a call from
Jets.
Joe.
Yep. Yeah, Joe, my agent. Yes.
Yeah, and he said that the Jets were bringing you back. Yep. And Willie was like, "Babe, this prayer shit really worked." I just remember you was like, this prayer shit. It was so funny. And I was just thinking yes, because I wanted him to feel and experience God and just the joy I feel with, yes, I'm not eating the things. In the beginning, your energy is low. You're trying to cleanse your body of these toxins. Give your experience when we first start. It's so hard in the beginning, guys.
Well, yeah. You're changing your diet completely. You also, as you start to go through this fast, the little things start popping up where they become eye-opening. Your relationship with your friends, your relationship with your family, your relationship with who you're involved with.
And remember, I left this part out. We write down in the beginning, our intentions, what we want from this fast, what we're releasing during this fast. So, it goes back to when we talk about you don't really announce, because sometimes, I remember one time I was just like, God, I need you to show me the wolves in sheep clothing. I need you to put before me who is here for me and my relationship and my family and want to see the best for me. And not that I was going to change up and be like, oh, forget you. I don't want to be around you anymore, because a lot of times it's people who are right next to you. Excuse me. It's people that you don't even think. This may be somebody you talk to every day. And when you finish this fast, it's kind of like, y'all don't even really talk that much anymore. I don't know how to explain it, but over those.
Well, I think it's in alignment. When you start aligning yourself with God and his purpose for your life, man, you realize those who aren't for you start kind of peeling away and they kind of reveal themselves. And those who are for you, you may get a call from somebody you haven't talked to in a long time.
In years.
You may get a favor from a family member who you never thought ever really had your back. Someone might pop up in your life who you'd be like, man, I always thought about you in this light, but you really, you keep it a buck, and I really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate that. So I think the important thing to really acknowledge when you're going through this fast is to be still and
ask for discernment.
Yes.
Like, that's the one thing we both said, God, we want to know your voice or hear your voice over our own. We want you to suppress our voice and anybody else around us so we can hear you. And another really important thing, and I'm going to let you go with this, but we also say, God, show us ourselves as you see us. And that was very important to me, because a lot of times I would say, show me myself as you see me, and show me myself as others see me. And there were a lot of things that, I was proud of. And then there were some things like, I was like, oh no, I got to let that go. I got to change, because I don't want God to see me that way. And so.
Yeah. And I also think it's important to do this time, because it's not a long time, right? But I do think if there's new habits you would like to create for yourself, this is a good time
and
to do so.
And it takes 21 days to create a new habit, guys.
Correct. So I think journaling is it's a good time to start journaling. Writing down your thoughts. Don't be judgmental. I was just having a conversation with one of my buddies. I just came back from Houston, y'all. And we were talking about being, just life after football for us, and what does that mean on a lot of different levels. And he was talking about, once he retired, he was having trouble speaking and thinking and really having clarity about different directions he wanted to go in his life. And I said, hey, bro, get a journal, start a journal, get a pen, get a pad, and just write. Even if it's 2 sentences or if it's a paragraph, just get it on paper and allow your feelings and thoughts to just flow out of you, and don't be judgmental. If it means, even if you write down, hey, man, today I walked by a rabbit and I wanted to kick it across the street, write it down. Or if you're in the supermarket, you're like, hey, man, I was near the fruit section and I saw this baby that looked exactly like a grown ass man, right? Like, whatever it is, write it down. Don't judge yourself, because so much of our day to day is either we're judging somebody else, we're judging ourselves, or we're in between both. And I think journaling during this process, especially to Aikisha's point, if you're fasting and you're really trying to find clarity in a new direction, journaling allows yourself to see that. Because I think for me, it's one thing to be in your head and you become tone deaf, but you're able to put it on paper and then say, oh, this is what I really feel. This is how this is what's really kind of bubbling up inside of me. And then when you see it with your own eyes, it just brings, I think it just kind of, it's a different type of release. So allow yourself to do that during this fasting period.
And the fast actually, it humbles you and it breaks you down in order for God to build you back up, if that makes sense. It's like one of those things that when you're fasting, so many different things are going to come up and come at you. The enemy gets so busy, like we say, the devil gets so busy, things begin to happen, arguments that, sometimes we'll lash out at each other and be like, okay, wait a minute, where the hell did that come from? And we'll find ourselves going at it. And then it's like, okay, hold on, wait a minute. And we realize, see, the devil gets mad when he knows you're trying to get closer and get into a deeper relationship with God. Oh, he gets angry. So he begins to do things to try to get you back, pull you back, get your attention, distract you from what you are really trying to do. And that's grow closer to God and align yourself with whatever his purpose is for your life. So I'll catch myself if I'm driving, somebody pisses me off real quick, or, Willie and I, something with the kids or whatever it is. Whatever happens, I always have to remember, stay focused. You're fasting, and keep God first. And he's right. I'll go and I'll write that down. I'll be like, okay, this happened today, but I handled it this way. And I'll look at those things that I'm trying to release or whatever I put down with the intentions of whatever I want. I'm like, oh, the devil showed up because this is getting me a step closer to this. or the devil showed up because I said I was about to release this. So, I think for both of us, it is one of those things that has helped us to be where we are. A lot of people like to say, some people be like, oh man, Aikisha, things always good happen to you, or you always get this, and you always get whatever. And I don't think people realize that as crazy as Willie and I are, as funny as we are, and all of this outlandish stuff you'll see us do, our core foundation is our trust and our belief in God. And we know that everything that comes to us, it comes from him. Mm-hmm. And that's what you see in us. When you see the love we have for each other, it is the love we have for God. And I remember when I realized that it was going to be the two of us and that you were the one, my prayer to God, and I said it to him, if you give him to me, I will bring him to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've always said that.
I always said that. And I wanted to make sure that you and I were on the same page with that. And I feel that I have kept that promise, because there are times when my faith wavers. When I'm down, when you have had to step in and remind me that God is God. And he has us.
Well, yeah, I think because you've always been consistent and you've always been steadfast on proving to me that God is real, and through our own journeys. I mean, I don't say my kids when I'm talking about them, especially in public. I always say my two miracle babies.
Yes.
Because our process, I talk about how,
that's what our book is. The book that we guys, shameless plug, not shameless because this is our show. The book that we have coming out now is Faith and Fertility. And you're like, when we look at our children, when you had man telling me, it's not like looking good for you.
Multiple men, multiple people, multiple situations
saying that you don't have follicles, you're not producing eggs. And so, all children are miracles. We know that, but I know that my children, when I didn't even have the equipment really to make it happen, and I had two healthy, natural conception babies who are absolutely amazing. They're smart, their personalities, like no one else but God did this for us. So,
yeah, I go back to even when we got married in Jackson, Mississippi, in that church. I remember there was a massive storm the night before.
Yes.
And the day of, it was the prettiest day. It was hot, but it was the prettiest day in Jackson. And it was almost like we were kind of...
It was kind of like our relationship. Like we went through this.
Yeah. And we arrived in paradise. And, and there's so many different examples. I do want to say this, and I want to throw this at you. I think I was you telling your story about fasting, and we're talking about the process. But I think for couples who do decide to fast, I Googled this, so this isn't just something I learned. I asked Google, I said, hey, what can married couples do while fasting? And they suggested hugging, kissing, and intimate touching is permitted during fasting hours, as long as it doesn't lead to ejaculation or intercourse.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So we're going to have to change that.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I'm a finisher.
Okay. So.
But I also suggest for couples that do decide to fast together, like Aikisha and I did, and we continue to do, find quiet time for yourselves, away from your family, friends, kids, or anything that's a distraction. Have conversations. And I think we do this routinely. I think there's times where we just kind of check in with each other. But have hard conversations, not hard conversations, but ask questions that you're curious about or you want to know. Because I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about when fasting, finding clarity within your relationship. I think one thing we do, and Keisha does it, she'll ask me a question, and I'll either have an answer or I don't, or I'll whatever. But have that time where you're solely talking to each other about things you're curious about or want to know, or just open, honest conversations. It doesn't matter how real, raw, and ripe it is. Just have it. have it right now during fasting when you're cleansing the body and you're cleansing the mind.
Vulnerable and yes, most vulnerable. So guys, we thank you for tuning in again. We thank you for, subscribing. We thank you for liking this podcast. We thank you for your comments. We try to go through and read every comment and answer any questions that you have. So, if you have any questions about fasting, it's so much. Of course, we can't put it all into this one show, but if you have any questions about my journey, about Willie's journey, and about fasting or anything, it just doesn't even have to be about this.
Well, before we go, can you give people 3 steps to start? I know we're kind of in the middle of the Daniel fast, but somebody who wants to participate in fasting, do you give them any suggestions how to start? Yeah.
And wait a minute. And you don't just have to do it during the Lent season. I mean, there are times when something's coming up, or we may have something coming down the pipeline, or I need clarity on something or whatever. I'll do this any time of the year. I will go on a 7-day fast really quick, a 5-day, or, 7 to 10, whatever it is. When I need to have, I feel like I'm not where I need to be with God, I go on this fast. Now, starting it, I think it was an easier transition for me. I kind of started a couple of days before the fast, slowing up on certain things. Like I went from letting the beef and pork go, and then I would just get down to chicken and fish. And then I would let the chicken and turkey leave out of the way, and then I would just get down to fish. I began to cleanse my body a little bit right before I started, just so it wouldn't kind of be in shock. But drinking plenty of water, pray about it. Before you start any fast, anything, you pray about it and just ask God to sort of help you, not just sort of help you, but to help you and guide you through this, letting him know that you are doing this because you want a deeper relationship with him. You want to, cleanse your body, your mind, your spirit, whatever your reasons may be for doing it, pray about it first. And, like I said, then you begin, it can be expensive, just depending on, what you do, because of course, a lot of the healthier things are not in our regular grocery store. So a lot of times I'm spending a lot of time in Whole Foods. We're eating a lot of beans, a lot of vegetables, leafy vegetables. We're eating a lot of fruit, nuts, grains, drinking a lot of water. You feel yourself emptying and releasing. And each time I feel like I'm getting rid of something that I didn't need and getting rid of toxins in my body. And I'm just, and I'm grateful for that. And I ask Lord to continue. I ask God to continue to help me release any and everything that is inside of me that is not of him. So,
and also during this time, it's a good time to get quiet. And I suggest 2 books, a book that you're interested or that you always want to read. Just do a chapter a day, people. And also wake up with the word.
I'm sorry. That's something I forgot to put in there. Like I said, we pray 3 times a day, but then like we're on our Bible app and we do a daily devotion. So if I'm praying, and I fast with people, I get a fasting partner. It's not just Willie and me all the time. I have girlfriends who will hit me up and be like, hey, this year I'm doing Daniel fast with you. So let me know when you're ready. Or they may call and say, listen, I'm going through a lot of things right now. Will you join me in fasting? I do not ever mind going to God or interceding on anybody's behalf. So if you know me or you go into my DMs and hit up and say, hey, I'm dealing with something. Will you talk to me or join me on this fast? Listen, I am here for you. And so that's it. So again, guys, thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to us. Thank you for coming to this page. There are a billion other places you could be on YouTube, on social media, in the podcast world, and you've chosen to be here. And I thank you for that. So remember to hit that like button, hit subscribe, share this with your friends, comment below. We are so happy that you are here with us. And we thank you. This is F It with Aikisha and Willie Cologne. See you next week.
Peace.